Whoa. Let's start off our Momentum Monday with what happens when you have that oh crap moment. Like when you go, oh my gosh, what am I choosing to do? Anybody had one of those? I bet Mirren has had that when she is transitioning and doing two businesses and she's making these big choices. All right. So I want to talk about a couple different things today. I want to talk about what can drive us to make bigger choices. I say bigger choices. It's probably not the right way to describe that. What I mean is make big moves. How do we make big moves? How do we get out of being stuck? It's kind of been a theme lately, but we will continue to repeat because we can't get ourselves off what people describe as a hamster wheel, or we can't get out of the cycle that we're in, or we don't know how to break loose, but yet we're not happy. And then what happens is we get temporarily happy. Something goes like, okay. So then we're like, well, maybe it's not that bad. And then we go right back to feeling like we're stuck in the cycle. And then we just keep bouncing back and forth between that. That's where we land. I would say the number one thing that people could probably relate to in this aspect would be weight. When we're like, oh, I don't like the way that I look, I'm going to do something about it. And then we get feeling okay. And then we're like, never mind. And then we go back to the cycle of, oh, I don't like the way I look. And then I want to do something about it. And then we're like, never mind. And then we just are in that cycle. So it's the same thing in life. It's the same thing in business. When we're making big moves or what feel like big moves. Now, I want to probably dispel that they're not as big as what we think they are, but they feel really big. I'm talking to myself here because right now I'm sitting in Hawaii and we're on Oahu. We got here last night. And with all the excitement in the world, I packed up my house, I didn't even pack it up. I gave away near everything except for the staging stuff that's in my house and left some of my clothes there, packed up a couple bags. I was like, go big or go home. I've got two 50-pound bags and my carry-on and my backpack. I was like, if I find a place that I want to buy while I'm here, then I'll just leave the clothes behind. So might as well just pack two suitcases, which I've never done in my life. And as I'm now flying over here last night, I was like, shiz, what am I doing? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? And I had the oh crap moment. Now, if you've listened to a previous Momentum Monday, I talked about the second stage in relationship or in business. This is relationship with self that I'm talking about now. But our first stage is fresh love. We get so excited and it's such a good idea and it's so fun and we love it. We do this in relationship. We do this with ideas in business. That's the fresh love stage. That's the like, oh my gosh, isn't this so fun? Is this so awesome? Wasn't this such a good idea? And then we get into it and then we have disillusionment. And disillusionment is when we go, oh crap, what did I decide to do? Because all of a sudden we start to see I don't want to call them consequences because they're not. I want to say we start to experience something different. And as we're experiencing something different, it feels so uncomfortable that we think that we're making the wrong choice. We're doing something wrong. That's all it really is. We just aren't familiar with what we're choosing to do yet. And so naturally, this is the part that I want to help you understand. It is natural that you go to, wait a minute, this feels really wrong, or this is really scary, or this is not comfortable for me. That is not a signal that says, let's quit and go back to the beginning and just do what we were doing. That's how we stay in that cycle. This is the signal that says, this is something different. You haven't done this before. And you just have to sit in that for a minute. The way to move past that is to move through it and just recognize that you're going to feel that. That's a normal reaction. We're always seeking safety. We're always seeking calm. We're always seeking what's familiar. But it's so funny. We hate familiar when we want to do something different and we get excited about an idea. But then the second that it becomes unfamiliar and uncomfortable, we just revert right back. And I've been listening to on the plane. I was listening to the scaling book by Dan Hardy and Dan Hardy. And he was giving an example of I hated this, but they did some testing on animals back in, it was like the 70s or early 80s. And the testing on the animal was they put a dog in favorable conditions and safe conditions, let it go out of those conditions, played like a really loud noise to scare it, and it went back to its favorable conditions. Well, what was more interesting is they took a dog in unfavorable conditions. It was a dog or a rat. Anyway, unfavorable conditions, let it out, put it in unfavorable conditions, and it ran back to its unfavorable conditions. What was interesting is it was never safe in its original place, but yet the unsafe that it didn't know was worse than the unsafe that it knew. Y'all follow me? No matter what, we seek safety. And as long as we understand that, we can retrain or at least recognize what our nervous system is doing when we are faced with something that's different. That's something that's different. It may feel like it's wrong. And it's not just intellectually that you can understand and be like, oh, yep, logically, intellectually, right? Talk yourself into feeling okay. That's not where it comes from. You have to calm your nervous system down that says, yeah, this is safe and this is okay. And then from a calm place, you make decisions. What we do is jump out, feel not calm, and make reactive decisions from that place. And then that just bounces us back into a cycle because we're never giving ourselves the opportunity to calm our nervous system down and then make a decision from what now feels like a safe space. So in the best example, as I'm flying over last night, my plan, which loose plan, with me, the word plan is not a thing, but we land last night and I'm teaching my daughter through example, hopefully, and through experience that we don't have to pre-plan everything. We can survive. And we can not just survive, but you can thrive and you can feel great. So we landed. She asked me on the plane, are we going to book the hotel? She actually asked me before we got on our plane back in Boise, are we going to find a hotel? And I said, we can look if you want to look. And we kind of looked at some Airbnbs and we talked about it. And she's like, well, do we want to do Airbnb? And I said, well, we could do hotel for a couple days and then go to a different island. What are your thoughts? What do you want to do? And she's like, she didn't know. And I was like, okay, we don't need to do it right now. So we'll wait. So then on the plane, we were about an hour from landing. She's like, are we going to find a place to live or to stay, And I was like, when we land, like we'll just land and then we'll open up the app and we can see the proximity of where everything is from where we are and see where we feel like going. And she was like, okay, all right. Kind of give me the look, right, Mom? Okay. So we land, we get to baggage claim. She asked me like 2 times on the way there. We get to baggage claim. And then I was like, okay. So I pulled up my phone and I'm show her the map and I'm like, where do you want to go? You want to go this direction or this direction? Here's what this way. Here's what's this way. So we picked a hotel. I booked the hotel. Done. We pick up our bags. And then we were like, okay, how are we going to get there? It's like, okay, well, we can take a taxi. We could do, Uber. We could rent a car. Like there's all the options. What do we want to do? And we walk out the door. Maddie's laughing because we did this in Italy and it just about kind of gave her a heart attack at the very beginning. She had some like really good anxiety when I was doing this to her in Italy. So we walk out the door. There was a shuttle to go to the Ubers and to rent a car. But then right there was a taxi. And I said, do you want to go get an Uber or do you want to rent a car? Or do you want to take a taxi? She goes, I'm tired. I just want to get to the hotel. What's fastest? And I was like, taxi. It's sitting right there. Boom. Walk over, get in the taxi, get to our hotel. It was great. Now, I don't know if she had any anxiety, so I probably need to ask her. As the mom, it's a little harder to teach than it is because I don't want to be coaching my child. But I didn't have any anxiety about any of it, but I've practiced it. Okay. But I've practiced that one skill. Now, here's what I want to share with you. I was freaking out, but not about that. I did not sleep very good last night. I was texting my coach. Oh my gosh, my nose itches so bad. I was texting my coach friend, Grant, and I was like having my holy shit, what am I doing moment. Not because I'm on vacation, but because my loose plan is I'm staying here for about 30 days. So now 30 days in Hawaii. I did Italy for 30 days. Why not do 30 days in Hawaii? So I'm 30 days in Hawaii, and I started looking up real estate to find a place to buy because this is where I want to move. Now, I had all fresh love phase while I was back in Boise packing up my house. I had all the best intention and all the like strategy and information and planning and like visualizing what I want to buy, where I want to live, what it's going to feel like. Like I did all of those things and I was pumped and my energy was great and I had no fear and it felt completely right. Okay? There was no part of me in that safe environment where any of this felt wrong. So that's really important to recognize that it was the right path to start with. Then I on the plane over and last night I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing?" And my automatic response is I should go back home. Like it's safe there. I could hear my body and my brain telling me, like, why would you leave a safe space to put yourself out here trying to find a place to live? Like, it's all new. I mean, this is like next level stuff. This isn't I'm going on vacation for 30 days. This is I'm moving. I haven't moved for 12 years. Well, I mean, I haven't left my city for 15, and I've never left Idaho. I've always lived there. So the familiarity is really big in Idaho. So I'm working myself through the process, people. And I want you to understand, like, it happens. It is a process. The one thing that calmed me down, or at least got me to be like, it's going to be okay, Lisa, it's going to be okay, is I was in fresh love stage before I came. And when I landed and I started looking up real estate and I started like, oh my gosh, I don't know what leasehold estates are. We don't have those. I don't have condos in my area. So now I'm asking ChatGPT to educate me on leaseholds. And because I don't know that stuff, right? I'm like, I got to call Maddie because she probably knows because they probably have those in Florida. I was texting Ryan in the Bahamas. Do you have leaseholds on your condos? Like I've never heard of that before. So I'm like educating myself and I felt a little bit it wasn't really overwhelmed, you could call it that, but it's just uncomfortable. Overwhelm really is we get so uncomfortable that we start to shut down. So as I'm educating myself and I'm looking through, okay, and I'm like, what am I doing? I had to just let myself know this is completely normal. This response that I'm having, it doesn't mean that I'm making a wrong move. It means this is normal because I am changing my environment. I'm changing from what's safe. So how does this apply to your business? Anytime you are going to do something that is outside of your normal routine, outside of what you've done before, or even outside of what you actually feel comfortable and safe doing, you are going to have this type of reaction. You are going to move from fresh love, oh my gosh, I got my license and I'm going to sell all the things, or I made my goals and I'm going to do this so well, or I'm going to sit down and call 15 for sale by owners. And then you're going to move into disillusionment. It's going to not seem like a good idea anymore. And the reason why we get stuck in our lives, in our patterns, in our business, any stuckness is because we don't make it past disillusionment. We give up and we go back to something that feels better. We go back to fresh love. The number of people that are having anxiety watching what I'm doing is mind-blowing. The messages that I get, even my lender was like, I'm having anxiety for you. Like, well, thanks. You don't need to do that. But moving from what's unfamiliar is really hard. And here's what I want to tell you. You can train yourself to be good at it. That's what I learned in Italy. I trained myself over and over and over again. It was the repetition and knowing and telling myself that I was safe to do it. I just kept making those decisions and kept going forward and taking the action and moving through what I knew was disillusionment, right? Sometimes through power and control with myself, if I had to fight with myself about making that different choice, into reinvention. Your fourth stage is reinvention. And when you can move through fresh love, disillusionment, power and control, and usually that's with yourself, sometimes with somebody else, but really it's mostly with yourself, into reinvention, that's when you get to feel different. That's when you get to get unstuck. That's when it gets to start to feel amazing. And another truth bomb for you here, you can actually feel amazing through all of those other stages as well. So you do not have to wait until reinvention in order to feel amazing. I still feel amazing. My energy, you see my energy here? I'm not shut down, am I? But really, like, I still have some inside where I'm like in some power and control and some disillusionment for like, what the hell am I doing? There's still that. And I'll keep moving through it. And it's going to be just little steps, knowing that I can survive it, getting comfortable with it. But you have got to push through and start to get comfortable with that feeling. Madi explained this to us on a call last week, where after doing this in Italy and then coming home and practicing this with her family, the more she practices it, she was like, this is good. Like, it's getting easy. She's like, and it feels amazing. And then she's just doing it. And now it's becoming a natural habit that she can do these harder things, which is going to bleed over, by the way. We worked on this with her family and her, but it's going to bleed over into her business, because now you become unafraid of what's not safe or familiar. We just were taught to be safe. I mean, our bodies, right? We need to feel safe. We need to feel, everything needs to feel familiar. But man, there is some real good fun in what's not familiar. There is some really amazing things when you can tell yourself, where there's going to be like an awesome plot twist coming up in my life, and I don't know what it is. And I'm so excited to find out what that is. Like, you can feel amazing even with the plot twist. The plot twist doesn't mean you have to be scared or run away. The plot twist doesn't mean that there's something wrong. The plot twist means there's something out there you've never experienced, and you'll never get to experience it if you don't allow yourself, and if you don't move through this, if you keep going back to what just feels good right now. Then you get to the point where it gets to feel good all the time, even through the hard things. Okay? Even through the hard things. So I packed up my house. I spent 3 days like going ham on my house. No, I didn't pack it up. I packed up my daughter's stuff and I gave away everything else that I owned, minus my staging furniture. Everything. I had people coming over, taking stuff. It was great. Had to give away the dog. That was there were tears at moments moving through those steps. There was some sadness. There was some excitement. But what was missing was resistance. I didn't have resistance, so I wasn't exhausted fighting against myself. Now, 3 days prior to packing up my house, I had resistance. I was trying to push myself in a way that I'd always pushed myself. And my body's like, Lisa, you don't do this anymore. You don't do all the pushing and the over planning and the like stressing out stuff. And it's like, quit it. And my brain was in a pattern of saying, like, this is how we perform. This is what we do. And what it did to me was shut me down and put me in bed until 10 o'clock every morning for 3 days. And I was like, what is happening to me? What is going on? Until I talked to my coach. And she's like, and she knows me well now. It's been a year we've worked together. She's like, you've been rushed your whole life, Lisa. You don't rush anymore. And all of a sudden you're trying to apply an old habit, an old behavior to who you are now. And I'm not that person anymore that rushes through everything. And I mean, when you say old habits break hard or are hard to break, very true, because they are going to pop back up sometimes. Getting help, acknowledging or recognizing or seeing them, talking to a friend, talking to a coach, really helpful. So once we recognized that, you guys, that was Wednesday morning. So I was still shut down, and I went for a walk and I was messaging with my coach, and she pointed that out. And the tears started coming down my face. And I was like, nail on the head. That was a nail on the head right there. I was so used to pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And my body's like, you don't do this anymore. Stop. So there was resistance happening, that's what was shutting me down. Now, if you weren't self aware, you could have thought, or if I didn't have help, maybe even acknowledging, recognizing things and hadn't trained for this, I would have thought the choice that I was making was shutting me down. I would have applied it to something outside of myself. Like, Lisa, leaving your home and selling everything and moving to Hawaii is not a great idea. I could have easily applied or blamed my circumstance on the way that I was feeling. But it wasn't. It was just an emotion that was happening for me that I wasn't acknowledging and realizing. And it was a behavior pattern. Break the pattern, freed me up. We had some bomb coaching calls on Wednesday. And then I freaking packed like a rock star, 12 to 15 hours a day, cleaned out my whole house, mopped my garage floor. It was amazing. Packed myself 2 suitcases and I got on a plane. You move through it. So I hope you took some notes. And I hope this is a good example for you of we don't have to stay where we are, but we do have to work at it and relearn and learn some new skills. But there's a period of time where you're learning those new skills and it feels uncomfortable, hard, different, like you won't survive it. And then after that comes that reinvention piece where it also becomes normal, natural, a new habit that you get to experience. And now you experience life differently. And now you get to experience life with great amounts of joy, even when there's challenges, even when things don't go your way, even when the circumstances can get hard. Life is still 50-50. We still have, hard stuff, good stuff. But the whole thing still gets to be joyful, even moving through the challenges. That is the differentiating factor. So if you don't love where you are, I want you to do an audit. And I want you to take those 4 steps and I want you to see, where do you hit your fight, flight, freeze? When do you run back to fresh love? What is your fresh love? What is the fresh love? Is that thing that feels good to you, right? Where is that? What is that? Where do you find comfort? We all find it in different ways. We can find it in places. We can find it in food. We can find it in activities. We can find it in people. We can find it in Netflix. We can find it in so many different ways. What is your fresh love that you are running back to? And then where do you get stopped up? Do you get through disillusionment, but then you get into power and control with yourself and you fight, fight, freeze because your nervous system can't handle it? Because it's not used to it? You don't know you can survive it? So just do an audit on yourself. This is just to bring awareness to how you're behaving. And my greatest, I guess one of the greatest things that I've learned is that we can and do run on faulty programming. We run on faulty programming. Faulty programming from our youth, from our interactions with other people, from spouses, from even children, from people outside of us. The things that we've heard, that we've integrated, that we've taken from other people that we now believe are truth for us. It's just faulty programming. So reprogram it. And we reprogram it with those 4 steps and moving through and allowing yourself to feel as you do it. All right? You guys, amazing. And I feel I'm going to add one more thing on here because I keep feeling like I need to tell you this. So I'm going to tell you this. I know we're about at time, but when I was out for a walk, it was actually the walk when I was recognizing that I was pushing myself. I got stopped by a past client of mine. And she had messaged me the day before. This is what was so interesting. When I told people, like, yeah, I'm moving, all of a sudden a bunch of people popped up that I saw at gas stations and when I was out walking, and it was like divine. It was very divine to see some of these people as I'm kind of transitioning out of Idaho. So I'm walking. She literally pulls her car over, gets out of her car. She told me she wanted me to see me the day before. And I was like, yeah, I'll try to find time. Anyway, she literally like didn't hunt me down, but happened to see me. Gets out of our car. She comes over to talk to me. I want to tell you about her. So she's been a client of mine I think I sold her house probably 5, 6 years ago. Her husband committed suicide a year ago. I went to stop by and see her one day and say hi. She just lives around the corner from me. And she told me that her husband had driven his pickup down over by the river and he shot himself. And so when she pulled over to talk to me, I said, hey, gave her hugs and what's going on. And she said, I just so admire what you're doing. And I said, you do? And she said, yes. She said, she feels stuck. She can feel stuck. Now, what we talked about was when and how we're stuck and when it's time to move out of it in big ways. We have big ways and we have small ways. And I think I need to tell you this because I don't want y'all thinking you have to blow up your lives and move to a different state and sell your house and all these things that I'm doing. That is not the thing that gets you unstuck. Okay? You can be exactly where you are and be able to get unstuck. That's very important to understand. I am making different moves now because my life circumstances are allowing me to do this. My children being grown are allowing me to do this. Me being single is allowing me to do this. That's one of the reasons why I'm making choices I'm making, or I can't much more easily. So as I'm talking to her, she's explaining to me she takes care of her, I want to say it's her granddaughter, who is not as developmentally far along, and she has a baby. So in her home now, she has her granddaughter, and there's a baby. And she's like, I don't know that I want to keep staying in this house forever, but she's in a season. She's in a season where she is taking care of, and she has this little family. And she was talking about how she's teaching this granddaughter who had never really been taught how to learn to do things that are harder that she'd never been taught to do. So she remained at a very young mental age. So she's watching her growth in real time as she's putting challenges in front of her to do things like doing the dishes and take care of herself and teach her how to take care of the baby well and life skills. She's teaching her life skills because she was on the slower developmental end. So she's doing that now, and that's where she belongs right now. She feels it, she knows it, and that's where she belongs. And one day, it may be time to transition into something different for her granddaughter to go do and be something different. And then she gets to make a different choice for where she wants to live, if that's the thing. But what we have to realize is we can move through every day with the steps that I've given you. We can move through every day just like that without having to change anything going on around us. We don't have to change our circumstances in order for us to move through those stages and to feel joyful. You practice that every day in everything that you do. Then you make a choice from a place of power. You make a choice when it's time to make the choice. And right now, she does need to stay where she's at the moment. She wants to, she needs to. That's what she's doing. But emotionally, you can move through the steps so that you don't feel like you're trapped. So you don't feel like you're stuck. Can I get like an amen on that just a little bit? How are we doing? Is that making sense? Okay. Like it's so hard sometimes to articulate what happens, and I'm trying real hard. So one of the reasons, or the reason why it was okay for me to make the choice I made now, a year after I've been divorced, is because I moved through and learned how to move through not needing my circumstances to be different. Last year, when I ran away to the Bahamas every month, And I did. I was running away. I will admit that. And doing life. But really, I didn't love the way I felt, and I wanted my circumstances, my environment to be different, so I kept leaving it to try to get a different environment to feel better. But you don't feel better by doing that. You can't change your circumstances. You can't just get divorced. If you get divorced, I mean, you can get divorced if you want, but let's say you get divorced, you're still going to feel the same. I was always told, don't get divorced when you're angry. And I thought, well, that's really weird. Why would you say that? That's why you get divorced. That's what I thought, right? If you can't find peace in you, if you can't find peace and joy in you and make a decision from that place of power, then we are making a place from a victim energy. I'm going to say that again for the people on the back. If you do not make a choice from a place of power, you are making choice from a place of victim energy, which means you don't feel like you actually have control. So you're changing to try to regain control. You are changing something to try to regain control. You always have control. And control feels like moving through those steps and feeling the joy and the happiness, regardless of what's going on around you. You can still feel okay. Only at that point, when I got to there, is when I was like, and now I can sell my house because I'm not running anywhere. I'm going to something for me, but I'm not running away from. So that's a really easier way to differentiate the victim energy from the power, right? Coming from a place of power. Am I running from something, or am I seeking or going to something? But if there's any running from while you're trying to go to, don't kid yourself. If you're like, "Oh no, Lisa, really, I'm going to something, I promise." Yeah. Are we running from something at the same time? Are you running to someone? Are you running to a place? Are you running to feel a certain way? If we're moving in that type of energy, you aren't going to feel like you have your power. You are going to remain in victim, which means you don't have control. But that's a total false lie that your brain loves to give you. And you always have control. Like you have all the choice in the world. All the choice in the world. So to bring this full circle, there's bugs flying in my face here in Hawaii. To bring this full circle, I know that I'm always at choice. You are always at choice. You always get to choose. That dog that kept running back to its environment still made choice. It was just an automatic response. We always get to choose. So we just need to wake up and start to be aware, do an audit on ourselves and our behavior and our patterns, get real curious about what's going on for us and why we're doing what we're doing. Right there, that will change. Like you will enact change just by simply doing that. And then you're going to get addicted to feeling amazing. You're going to get addicted to feeling joy. You're going to get addicted to knowing that you have choice and that nobody else chooses for you. Maudie's addicted. She's like, yes, we're going to move through all of it. Yes. It doesn't take a trip to Italy, although you can hire me. I'll take you to Italy if you want. You can do it. All right. You've got the tools. You got the information. You guys got this. Now go do an audit on yourself, on your life this week as we kick off our Monday with our Momentum Monday call. Was that awesome today? Yes. All right. Hey, you can follow my stories if you want to know the adventure, because we got some freaking adventure happening now. I'm a few days with my daughter, and then beyond that, Lisa's let loose on Hawaii to find a place to live and figure out how that whole thing is going to work. And I don't know what a fun jack in a box this is, and it's going to be more amazing than I can imagine. So that right there It will be even more amazing than I could ever imagine. I can't wait to see what life unfolds for me. I can't wait to see what God has in store for me. I can't wait to see what God unfolds for you and has in store for you when you release your grasp on life and you allow Him and allow things to come to you. Release and let go of what you've been doing so that you can make room for more. I love you all. Have an amazing week.